Sea of Thieves introduced a somewhat controversial mechanic that allows you to revive other players. People are, as always, saying it will kill solo sloopers in the game. I'm going to give you some facts and some theory on the revive feature to help you better use it, and tell you why that's not the case. I personally like the revive feature, and as a solo slooper, which I do over on Twitch most days of the week, it really doesn't do anything to change my gameplay, but it does give me a tool to use against other players, and if you understand how it fully works, you can use it to your advantage too, or stop it from being used against you. If you want to know how to best use something, or stop it being used against you, you need the facts. Here's a list of the facts about the revive feature that's been added in Sea of Thieves. And afterwards, we're going to talk about when you should use it and a couple of situations that may happen. When a player is downed, you get a prompt to revive them, and you have 15 seconds to do so before they're forced to respawn on the ferry. It takes 5 seconds to revive someone. It does not stop their respawn timer, but if you are mid-revive and the timer is due to end, the player will not be forced to the ferry, but they will if you stop reviving. Your timer on the ferry does not start until you give up the ghost. Time spent on the ferry until the door opens is 30 seconds regardless if you give up or wait, which means the longest that you can be off your ship for and dead is 45 seconds. When solo, you're supposed to respawn quicker. This is not the case due to either a bug or a last minute change. It was supposed to be a bit of a consolation prize to those who solo, who have nobody to revive them. However, your time on the ferry remains at 30 seconds. Your character slowly fills into a ghostly form signifying how far along the timer you are. On top of this, your ghost also ascends into the sky further and further, unless you have a roof blocking you overhead. You can revive anyone in your crew, or anyone in the alliance that you're part of. You can respawn quicker than someone can revive you, so if you're in an alliance that goes sour, and they keep revive spawn killing you, you should be able to force your own revive before they can grief you more. The revive is interruptible by knockback, but not by regular damage. When you're revived by a crewmate, you revive with 25% HP, which is little enough that an untreated firebomb will kill you. You can't set a ghost on fire, but you can set the deck of a ship on fire where the ghost is. You can be revived an infinite amount of times, and the timer remains the same, meaning that every time you die, you have 15 seconds to be revived, and you will spend 30 seconds on the ferry, if not. When you're respawned, whatever regen you had in your regen bar, you get to keep, something which is lost when you go to the ferry. It appears to also kick in as soon as you respawn. Whether this is due to the timer being technically out of combat or intended on respawn, I'm unsure. Someone do some tests and let me know. So those are the facts and the hard mechanics out of the way. When should you revive a fallen crewmate? There is no one answer to this question, and it all falls into the theory section of this video, but you can and should consider a few things. Here is what I would consider before initiating a revive. Firstly, is your crewmate good enough to make the call that they're safe to revive? If they are, then trust their judgment and go for the res immediately. The longer you leave it, the less that their informed call stays relevant. You'll quickly learn if they're crying for a res or calling for a res. If they're not able to make the call, you just don't trust them. Consider if your ship is safe from enemies, or if you're far enough away. For example, if you're on the bottom deck of a galleon and the enemy is jumping around at the top, it's likely that you'll be able to get the res off. However, if you're on a sloop, or perhaps even a brig, especially if there are multiple enemies on board, you're probably not going to get the revive off. It's best to have your crewmate force the res, rather than spend an extra 15 seconds off the ship and play a bit more defensively. If there aren't any enemies on your ship, or imminently trying to board, you can likely get off a res, but remember your teammate is still ineffective in a combat situation due to being res with 25% HP. Though that won't stop them from being useful or repairing, of course. If your ship is at near sinking point, don't risk it. You may have time to get a few buckets off to give yourself a bit more breathing room for the res, but it might just be more beneficial to force your teammate to res anyway. If a ship is within optimum cannon distance and your crewmate died in the open, you're better off forcing a res, even if they're below deck. It's possible that the knockback from a cannon kill will interrupt you anyway, and if you're not fully healed, you also risk dying. Overall here, communicate with your team and res when it's mostly safe. So now you know when you probably should res. There's a couple of other situations that you can use the res to your advantage. There's a really smart play you can make using the revive against other players, and I like to call it a honey trap. Do you remember the scene in Saving Private Ryan where the allied soldier gets knocked down by a sniper, and the sniper waits for his allied friend to pick him up and then shoots him too? You can basically do that in Sea of Thieves now. If you kill someone with a cannonball on their ship and you down them on their own cannons, the chances are their teammate is going to try and revive them. Just keep hitting that same point, you're probably going to get another kill. Make sure you tell your crew that that's where you've dropped someone, so they can do the same thing too. It's very likely that if you kill enough crew members, that you're probably going to win the fight anyway, and at the very least you're going to clear a path for you to be able to board and finish the job. Be aware though, the good crews are also going to do this to you too. In PvE, it's straight up just a quality of life improvement that you didn't know that you needed, but now you'll wonder how you ever lived without it, especially in the raw. Being sent to the ferry repeatedly was just a time sink that you can now avoid by reviving with your crew. We already have enough time sinks in the game, this is removing one of them, and I'm grateful for it. I've spent a considerable amount of time playing both solo and in a crew since the reviver was introduced, and frankly it's a non-issue for me. It hasn't made any crew harder to kill or sink, like people were doomsaying it would. I caused an issue for myself when a brig harpooned my ship. I killed the guy that was on the harpoon, and I missed the guy resin him. They were close enough I could have thrown fire or a blunderbomb though, but I didn't have any. This was down to me being poorly prepared. I still sank them, but it would have been easier had I been better prepared. With every change to every game, you can adapt your playstyle, and it seems to me that people don't like to be pushed out of the way that they've been set. This new revive mechanic is great all round, though there are definitely some improvements I would like to see. The biggest improvement I would like to see is that the respawn timer is shortened every time that you're revived, eventually to the point that you can't be revived as the timer is too short, which forces the player to be sent to the ferry. I want to make a list of changes that I think would improve the game from a PvP standpoint, and this is just one of many on that list. Let me know if that's something you're interested in. Do you have any suggestions or things I've missed with the revive though? Let me know over on Twitch and we can talk about it, or just in the comments below. I've been ToejahM, and I've been your temporary ship's captain. I'll see you later.
Toejah, you sound like Jack Frax.
It's the first time I heard that. You kidding me?
You really do though.